Great evening, everyone. What's going on? We are about to do our weekly podcast, Good Grief. So I am waiting for my co host to show up. Let me go ahead and invite her on. Let's see. Well, when she pops in, hopefully we get this right on the first go round. Is that her that just popped up there? No results found, nothing yet. So give her a moment. Good evening, good evening. Waiting for my co-host to pop up so we can go live. Hope you all are doing well. Hope you're doing great. Let me know how you're feeling. Okay, Erica, I see you there. So let me go ahead and invite you. Add. Erica, if this doesn't work, then try to ask to join the live. Good evening, everyone. So we'll give this a second. Hopefully this will work. Elva P. Wright in the VA. Good evening. Lorna, hello. Lisa, hey, Riakis, what's going on? Let me try and add Erica here. Just trying to get my co-host on. And Facebook always wants to change stuff around. So hopefully we can do this without a problem, without a hitch. Let's see. Good evening. I'm not sure if you can hear me, Erica. What is it saying on your end? We might need to flip it. Let's try this again. Ask to join the live one more time. Erica, I stopped the request, so see if you can request again, and then we'll try it one more time. If not, we'll hop off and I'll ask to join yours. Good evening, everyone. We are waiting for the co-host, so we are trying to get that together. I'm not sure why Facebook Live makes the adding someone so tedious or difficult. But tonight we're going to be talking the I of the grief and of the grief framework, and hopefully we can get that going shortly. Adding. Okay, perfect. I don't know.
Yay.
I guess it's
No.
another one of those we're not going to see each other type of things. Good thing I know what you look like.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Hi, guys.
Sister, how are you?
Good. How are you, sister?
Well. Hey, dogs. How are you?
They were quiet. Then you started talking.
Oh, I get the dogs excited. Ruff. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and get started, everyone. So thanks for joining us on tonight. Welcome to the Good Grief podcast, where we are navigating grief with grace, reflection, impact, empowerment, and faith. We're your hosts, Camille Aiko.
Erica.
And this is a space for real conversations, healing, and hope. So whether you're grieving a loved one, a life transition, or just trying to simply find your way through life, you're not alone. So let's walk this grief journey together. Now, last week we talked about the R of the grief framework. We talked about reflect on your loss, healing without getting stuck, because a lot of times when we're reflecting, we can get in that place of stuck where we feel like we're down. We don't feel like pulling the cover from over our heads. We don't want to see the light of day. We just we get in those funks, right? And so we talked about how can we reflect without getting in the funk and allowing it to impact our everyday life. So how can we reflect and allow us to see the purpose versus the pain, right? So we can feel the pain, but we can't allow that pain to keep us in a place of stuck, right? So this week we're going to be talking about the I. And The I is making sure that we know who's in our corner, who can we go to, and creating that community, the impact of community during your grief journey. And so grief can feel incredibly isolating, where you just absolutely feel alone. But today we want to remind you that you don't have to grieve alone. And we're talking about how to recognize who's truly there for you. Because I know we learned who was truly there for us, or at least who we felt like who was truly there for us and who wasn't, and how to ask for help without feeling like a burden, and how faith, therapy, community can work together for healing. So drop a heart in the comments if you've ever struggled with asking for help during grief. Erico, have you ever felt like you struggled with asking for help during grief?
I still struggle. I don't ask people for help. Like, I know that we're going through this, but I don't think in this whole grieving process, I've definitely isolated myself. I think I talked to, well, of course I talked to you. I talked to you, and I think I've got like one friend that I talk to, but for the most part, I still find it to be extremely isolating. Oh, cousin. So I guess it's not as isolating, but at the same time, it's like super lonely.
And that's a good point. I think to think about, okay, I reach out to people, but even in reaching out to people, I can still feel lonely. And even how do we deal with that? Like, even in reaching out to those people, are you being as open and being able to get everything out that you need to get out, or feeling supported like you need to feel supported in order not to feel lonely? I think those are good things that we're going to dive into tonight. I think I'm in the same boat with you. To an extent, I feel like I'm not just going to reach out to someone and be like, hey, I need this. I think when I've needed to talk to someone, though, that's what I've done. Or needed to pray, or whatever the case is. I've been able to find people who are able to be there for me in those times. And I think that's kind of what I've needed. But let us know in the comments, have you guys struggled with asking for help, reaching out to your community in the comments? I'm not seeing anything right now, so maybe we're the only ones. I don't know. You see something?
Yeah, Aaron says I struggle with that.
Yeah. We'll talk more. I think I struggled more with it with anticipatory grief. I don't know. This is going to be interesting. Let's break it down.
Yeah,
all right. So
no, either. And she says she never wants to be a burden. And I get that, because you feel like people are like, I'm there for you, but you just don't know how to say, like, hey,
this is what I need. Yeah. I'm a little jealous right now because you can see the comments and I can't. So you are on comment.
Because I have both of my screens up.
Okay.
Hello, Latrine.
I'm like, I don't see a lot of comments. So I just
I'm trying to switch back and forth between, our agenda and just making sure that we are in touch with everybody's comments as they come through.
Look at you. Look at you. All right. So
we can't get on the Facebook Live together, but
let's get into this deep dive. And why isolation deepens grief. And the cycle of isolation in grief, not grief, I'm sorry, grief. But when we're grieving, we often feel like no one understands. And that can lead us to withdrawing, which only makes the pain feel heavier. And studies actually show that social support is one of the biggest factors in emotional resilience. And so I think, a lot of people can relate to like what both you, Melanie and Aaron were saying, of just like, I didn't want to reach out because I didn't want to bother anybody, or I didn't want to be a burden on anyone. I think my thing has been, I felt like no one really understood, like your world is still going on And my world has stopped.
Oh no, I definitely get that.
To death with mom's death. Of just feeling like your world is going on and you can't possibly feel how I feel because my mama was your mama. and and just feeling like what I don't want to hear the cliche stuff. I don't want to hear like I know those things, but I just got to work through this. I think that's kind of been my biggest thing with mom passing.
Yeah. And you had touched on
Areas, it literally has been like I don't want to be a burden. Like if I'm telling you I have this issue, you just kind of want people to read between the lines sometimes. I think it's just like if I'm saying this, then as just a human being, like just step in and be like, okay, I hear you, so this is what I'm going to do because I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I also think like you were talking about the anticipatory grief. Like I definitely felt like none of you get this. Hold on, please. Dog's barking. But like none of you get this. Like what do you mean? No,
Yeah.
it's like I'm out here taking care of my mom. You're like, it gets better. Like take time to yourself. Like I don't have time to myself. You don't understand the struggle. Like it became frustrating. It definitely became isolating. I felt alone a lot of times. And it was rough, extremely rough.
And I think, even with that, it's kind of like when I was really in the trenches of being my husband, John Two's caregiver. I said it that way because everybody may not know John Two's name. But anyway, when I was, heavy in the trenches of being John Two's caregiver, not everybody understood what that looked like. Sometimes I got comments like, well, yeah, I would be that way. Or no. let me correct myself. It was, I've been a caregiver too, so I know what it takes, and you can do X, Y, and Z. Like trying to tell me how my life should look or shouldn't look, or what I should be doing or not be doing during my time of being a caregiver, in which I'm also grieving. Like I'm a year and a half into my marriage, and now all of a sudden, like my whole world shifted overnight.
Yeah.
And in fact, not even overnight, like in a couple hours. You know what I mean? And now you're telling me, as a newlywed already dealing with the transition of moving across the country, starting a marriage, having some tumultuous times in the marriage, and now I'm the caregiver? Like, what? And now you want to tell me how I should be? Like sometimes, and I think we'll talk more about this later, but you just don't want to hear everybody. And then some people, they just say some off the wall stuff where you're just like, and I'm no longer
and
like
that's
and in that we can begin to isolate ourselves because we can begin to feel like, well, everybody's going to talk to me that way, or is that what everybody's thinking? And I think that begins to, what we're saying here is deepen the isolation, because it's like we don't really know who to trust. We don't really know where to go, who's going to understand. And if you don't understand because you haven't been in my shoes before, then who can I go to? And even if you have been in a similar situation, you don't process life how I process life. So are you going to look at me like you just need to get your tail up and you need to da-da-da-da-da-da? Or are you going to give me the space to be able to grieve the way that I need to grieve and be able to do what I need to do as well? So
no, I get it.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
So let's think of the time that someone has checked on you, and how did it make you feel? And I think this has been, honestly, it's been a roller coaster for me. And particularly, again, when it came down to mom, like it was a roller coaster. For some people, I would respond. For a while, I didn't respond to anybody. And it was like, okay, I appreciate you reaching out to me, but then I didn't really feel like talking. And then there were some people where I was like, man, you reaching out to me through this text message, but you should have been there. Like, I feel like what I learned is that I wanted people to show up for me like I show up for them.
But they're not.
How to give, like we talked about with G, is give yourself grace. I had to learn how to give other people grace because they didn't even know how to show up for me. And I guess I wanted people to be like, you know what, when I was going through this, she was there. She was in my face. She was, crying with me, talking with me, whatever. Like, she was there. And I don't feel like I got that in return. And I became like, are y'all really rocking with me or what? And I had to learn to give people grace because it's like, okay, yeah, they got their lives and they're busy, but when they was going through their stuff,
they expected you to drop everything.
But I made,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there's 3 comments real quick. Lisa was saying, she said, let me kind of scroll back up because we kept talking and comments came through. She said, yes, I did struggle. She said, yes, I did struggle with my father passing away in 2008. I never got over his death, and I've just learned to live without him being there. Latrice said, yes, I've had people say some dumb stuff when my dad died, so I shut down and didn't want to talk to anyone. And Erin says, I think it opened your eyes to who is really there for you. And I'm going to go ahead and agree with you. Like what you said, just piggyback off of what you said. Like, I realized, like, I've dropped a lot of my life, or I've dropped activity, just dropped my life for people who I thought were about to be gung-ho for me, show up for me. I know you and I have had a couple conversations about people who I thought would be there, especially in the funeral process. Maybe you didn't even have to stay for the funeral, but my thought was they would at least show up to, we had a memorial service or we had a wake, but they didn't show up. And I'm thinking now, what in the world?
Yeah.
But when this was happening, when X, Y, and Z was happening for you, you expect me to be there for you. But and then when we lost Mom, people were like, I was getting I won't even say what I was getting. I'll just say I wasn't getting the same energy that I gave. So if that makes sense, I didn't get what I gave. And I definitely just learned, like I've been saying for now the 3rd week, I kind of like blocked them, or I definitely took a step back from people.
Yeah.
Just because I really learned, like, okay, this person is still going to call, check. And again, like I say, I know people have their own lives because I clearly have my own life. You know what I mean? Like, got a bunch of kids, they're involved in things, but there are days I don't want to get out of bed, but I don't have anybody necessarily like, girl, we need to get you out this bed, or let me come and let you.
I'm tired of being a strong one. Who comes in to be the strong one for me?
Right. Why do I'm consistently being strong, but I'm consistently being strong for you and then for me, So So that'll be definitely.
The ones that I appreciated the most are the ones who just like showed up. Like, I know you have a need. There's some people on here. I'm not going to get into everybody, but y'all know who y'all are. And we appreciate you. We thank you so much. And again, this is more so what we're talking about is in the loss of our mom, just coming to the house, like, here, what y'all need? What can I get you? How can I be of help? Like, and being there. Because sometimes just you need that distraction even of conversation and to just have some type of normalcy when you have chaos all around you. And I think that's what I can appreciate. So, yeah, I can see something. What are those comments?
So,
I'll let you be the comment person.
We got a heart and a kiss. And let's see. And it says, I also learned that you can't expect a you in everyone else, which is true. Yeah. But I think I agree with that. But at the same time, in the back of your mind, you're hoping that you have rocked with somebody hard enough that there'll be a you. Now, don't get me wrong. It wasn't like there was nobody. So let me be very clear and let me come back and fix that. There were people, like you say, there was somebody I can't eat. Somebody went and embarrassed themselves and got me a cheeseburger with no bun. And, going through the drive-thru, I'm sure they got crazy looks, but that was what I needed at the time. because I hadn't been eating. And I had not, people showed up with like drinks and stuff. And it was just nice not to think.
Yeah.
I think that's really
like we don't have to think about what are we about to eat, what are we about to cook, how are we going to do this, how are we going to do that. Mwah.
Yeah, it was just,
and
yeah.
Again,
so when
some of y'all are on here, I love y'all. Thank you so much. For real.
Definitely. So I just say, it just changes, so how I felt when some people, so to go back to the original thing, how did I feel when some people checked on me? Please stop checking on me. Stop. Don't do it. Because it became more of a frustration and are you out your mind thought than it being helpful. And then when other people, they didn't necessarily check in, they just showed up. I think that was kind of like what I appreciated the most, just showing up, or just like an actual thoughtful text that you wrote personally.
Yeah. So I think, it could be a roller coaster of emotions. And like I said earlier, a lot of what I learned, and particularly during this, is that you have to give grace even to other people, because they may not know how to show up for you, or they're still in just a place where they have to grow out of themselves, where they can be mindful of someone else. I'll even say this, and then we'll kind of move on, because I know we're obviously
really a sore spot.
Like, it was tough for me to even I love my mother-in-law, right? She's sweet. She was there. It was tough for me to talk to her because I call her mom. And after mom passed, it was just kind of like, but you're not my mom. You know what I mean? And so
I definitely agree.
Like that. So just people reaching out is like, you still have to be careful how you deal with people who are trying to, like, it's just very, very touchy, because again, it was like, whoo, like, I know I need to communicate with you. I want to reach back out. You're doing so much, and I thank you, and I appreciate that. It's just hard.
Yeah, I mean, even now I feel like it's hard.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I got tears in my eyes now.
I don't have any tears. No, but I just feel like it's definitely hard even now. I'll just say it's hard. I mean, it doesn't matter, I feel like what stage of grief you're in, whatever you're grieving. Because even when I was sick, times like there were.
You said
I said, even so, we're talking about even in grief or whatever, even when I was sick, I was saying it was still just like a handful of people who showed up. So not even in death, but even in a life-changing situation, people still just
Absolutely. Like, I can appreciate you, because after John 2 got out the hospital, you were you were the first to come down. And it's just me and John 2. Well, actually, I take that back.
I had just gotten out the hospital.
Mom and Dad came down first. They came down while he was in the hospital. But you came down after we got out the hospital, and, just helped clean and meal prep, because I was looking like I was the one who was in the hospital for weeks.
And it was crazy because I just had meningitis.
Right. You had just had a procedure, and
they poked a hole in my back.
And brought
Lord Jesus.
The whole family down. Yeah. So
in that little bed, but it was. So Latrice says, it's been 3 years and I just had a breakdown at the grocery store, just seeing a dad fussing at his daughter, and I long for that again. Honey, I get it.
Girl. This is kind of off topic now, but since you brought it up, it's kind of like when you see people with their parents still. Of course, I love seeing people with their parents still, but you can't help but in the back of your mind sometimes be like, why couldn't that be my mama? Why can't that be my granddaddy? Like, I want to be celebrating, or my grandmama, right? I want to be celebrating their 95th birthday, their 101st birthday.
Oh,
like, they love the Lord. They live half the crazy life you lived. You're still here, so why is it mine here.
Yeah.
You definitely get those feelings, Latrice, for sure.
So
For
it's
sure.
crazy.
But so
Well,
now, let's say the other part is now. What if someone else is waiting for you to reach out? So I guess y'all, we need to check on our friends. We need to check on our circle and be like, hey, who do we need to reach out to? And do we even know? Like, are we close enough to our circle to even know that they got something going on to know that we need to reach out to them? So this also might be something where we have to check our relationships, right? To really understand, do we know what's going on in the lives of the people that we surround ourselves with to even be part of their true community? And
I,
if we
I,
go ahead.
I'm going to answer that. No, I don't. And you want to know why?
Tell me.
Because the support system that I thought that was super healthy and was intact and in place, the 4 years of healing, anticipatory grief, or when I was sending my kids off to college, they weren't the people that I thought they were.
Mm-hmm.
Which has
Mm-hmm.
then now changed how I deal with people.
Yeah.
Oh, let's do this. We got to do that. Do we?
No,
Because I know you've got those one friends that like, they always say, oh, my best friend is somebody I don't talk to for weeks, but we can just pick up right where we are. But I think that changed for me.
yeah. I think, a lot of times in times of transition, in times of losing a loved one, in times of just trying to figure out life, you really do find out like who are your people. And everybody, it's like that saying says, some people are there for a
A
season,
reason, a
a
season,
season and a lifetime.
lifetime.
I think you really begin to find out why certain people are in your life, especially in good and bad moments, in those highs of life and the lows of life. You really begin to just understand, like, okay, you're here for a reason, you're here for a season, and you're here for a lifetime. So I think this is a good way to
Oh,
transition to recognizing who is in your life, um, who is a healthy support. And so signs of a healthy support system is they listen without trying to fix everything, right? Sometimes it's just good to be quiet and hear what somebody has to say and allow them to think through their thoughts, allow them to feel how they feel without trying to fix it. They validate your emotions without judgment. They respect your grieving process and your pace. And I think pace is so important. Even though sometimes you can, let me be completely honest. Like sometimes I do feel like, whew, this is a lot. This is a lot of grieving I got to deal with from somebody else. But
no,
it's like
somebody
I
else.
hold on though to those thoughts to myself and just breathe and do whatever
Yeah.
and recognize that that's what they need. And if I'm gonna be that person, I have to allow them to go at their own pace. And then
Yeah.
the other thing is, like I remember Dad mentioning that somebody said to him, like, "Oh, you're gonna get you a new one." Like a wife is just somebody you go buy at the store, something you go buy at the store. Like you'll be all right. Just go ahead and get you a new one. Like, if he did decide to go get him a new one, it will be at his own pace, and it won't be less than a month after um he lost his wife.
We should just
Like,
move on from this topic because it gets me fired up every
oh
time.
Lord, oh
So
Lord.
let me look at Janae. Janae said that's how I felt after my mom got sick. I quickly found out who was there for me. And Aaron said, love that you got each other's back, true sister bond. I love that too. I agree. But
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, we can
You
move
couldn't
on
see
from
what
the
I was
find a new
doing.
wife topic
That really
though.
sucks that you can't see me because I was doing the whole color purple
Oh, I didn't
handshake.
see it.
I know, but since you can't see me, I was
I just
out
did it
there
back.
on my own.
I just did it back.
So,
That's our thing.
so signs of unhelpful or toxic support. They tell you to move on, be strong. They avoid the topic or make it about themselves. They make you feel guilty for grieving. So a couple things that I want to touch on this is, you know, again, I want us to still keep people in perspective where we may not, some people you do need to be like, all right, I'm done, right? And then there's some people where you just have to realize they're just not the person who was in your corner for grief, right? It's like, I love you, but you're just not the person I'm going to go to, because some people feel uncomfortable about, even people in our family who we know are grieving. It's like, I'm not going to go to you and talk to you about what I'm feeling or what I'm dealing with in grief, because you're just not the one. Like, be there for them, but it's the roles reversed. Not.
Yeah, I got you all day long, but you don't. You just sit
Yeah,
here.
they're just not the ones to go and grieve to. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, or they make you feel guilty or for grieving. Listen, if they're making you feel guilty for grieving, I don't want anybody to get in their head to be like, well, should I still be grieving? Or maybe I should just stop talking about it because nobody wants to hear. They're just not your people. And maybe you'll only have a few people in your corner. You may not have this big group of people that you have, but
That's kind of like what Dad
as long as
said.
you have a few that can help push you through, that's all you need. It may
Yeah.
only be one.
Because
It may
Dad said
you
it.
can
Dad
say
was
that
like,
again.
I'm going to be talking about grace forever or for a long time. And if you don't want to hear it, then don't call me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking about her. And he literally was just here hanging out in my house. And he was just talking to us about mom and his love and all of these other things, and was trying to tell Jay he done found his wife, but he better go get her. You know, all of those things. So I get it.
Yeah.
Dad was like, this is me. This is my conversation. If you don't
Right.
like it,
He's like,
exit.
you don't want to hear about grace or Jesus, then what are we talking for? You don't want to talk to me.
Yeah.
So
Brittany said,
go
Brittany
ahead.
said, I've always dealt with grieving by unhealthy things or anger. So seeing y'all process is nice. Thank you. Don't get us wrong. Like, we processing sometimes in a private time, you would be like, oh, girl, you okay? But it's our process. So thank you for appreciating just our sharing how we're processing, specifically our mother's grief, which today seems to be the topic. So anyway, but back to what I said. If they make you feel guilty, fuck them. Do the X, people. That's been my thing.
All right, sorry, I had to say that. Anyway, have you ever had someone support you in a way that really helped? I think we've kind of talked about that, but if there's one in particularly that you want to talk about, what do they do that made a difference? I think we've kind of shared that from the very beginning. I think we were very hyped coming off the very top of this. I think it's the people who show up, who have just been like, you know what, in my time of need, what would I want? And then provided that.
Yeah. And even if it was just, like, hey, I don't want to, come on. Like, literally, I don't think being gluten-free is a struggle. So when I tell you, when I got that hamburger or cheeseburger from McDonald's, even if it did make my stomach hurt, like the person
before
this is happening. Like, so even though the cheeseburger probably wasn't the best option, it was like, let me take this time, let me go make this ridiculous order through the drive-through. And that really did something for me. You know what I mean? Because people are not going out to find you a gluten-free option at all, which is why I was hungry.
Like we've gotten a lot better, but sometimes we'd be like, okay, we made such and such, and you'd be like, but I can't eat it.
Yes, like it's so hard. So people are like,
But I mean, the fact that, that was stuck to some people's minds, we're in the midst of, and I guess because we were just so used to you being able to eat whatever, it just took us a minute to kind of train ourselves to be like, okay, she can't eat this or she can't have that.
yeah.
Right, I'm sure that was a blessing in those moments because I'm sure it could be very frustrating. Like, I'm hungry just like the rest of y'all. Y'all done made
Right,
me
and that's what it
and
was
didn't
for me.
remember me again.
Right, like it was like people kept bringing over. I mean, people brought over so much food. Don't get me wrong. I was so appreciative. Like you all fed my family. You all, and when I say my family, like but I'm over here starving. But so when I
I'm
say
so
that
sorry that
McDonald's
I did
meal was
that. I'm so
everything,
sorry I
it
did
was
not keep it
everything.
in my mind that you needed gluten-free food at times. My
I
fault.
mean, thank God for the drinks, Janae. No, she was like she brought all the drinks, but no, honestly, I think that really helped. Just being mindful that I couldn't have something and just going out of your way, even if it was an uncomfortable feeling, that somebody thought enough about me
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah, and I think I just saw Elaine pop up here, and that um, for me, when Jean came out the hospital, they came up from North Carolina to just check on me, help me out for the day, and they literally came up for the day, came up that morning, hung out, prayed with us. Um, Trisha had bought me a drill. She forgot the cord, the right one, but it was soft. And even with mom, they came from North Carolina to Ohio to check on mom, to help us out, to bring us, paper towels and toilet paper and whatever the case is. And so I think those are the things, that made the difference, in the love and the laughter, and just to again have that love in the house where it's not like we're only focused on the stress of
Yeah.
what is happening.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that has been helpful, you
So
know?
as we're saying that, so how do you ask for help without feeling like a burden? Because I know that we said, one, we didn't really know what we needed. Let's be honest. Like, I don't know what I need. So people don't know what they need. So when people are calling, like, hey, I'm here to help. What do you need? I have not a clue. Like, I don't know. Um, and that goes for like in death, in any type of transition. Like, but if I lose my job, y'all ain't ever got to worry about what to bring me. Bring me money, okay? If I don't lost my job, if that's the transition that happens, don't worry about calling. Just send cash, okay? But the other thing is you think, I don't want to be a burden. Erin said it earlier, like I don't ask people because I don't want to be a burden. It's hard to ask for help. And then you think everybody has their own
Mm-hmm.
problems. That's like super, super hard. And I don't know.
I think even
So,
sometimes within our faith,
yeah.
um, not that we're not taught to not ask for anything from people, but it's like only trust God, only this, but without feeling that, to realize that God uses people to help
Yeah.
bless us. That it's
And people
God's not
be
actually coming
blessed.
down and being like, here, daughter, here's some groceries that you
Right.
need. He typically uses people to help carry out the work. And so one thing I learned a while ago is, even because sometimes people offer us stuff when we're in need, but just because we still, I think it's also ego or pride, where we'll be like, no, we don't, I'm good, I'm fine, and we'll turn that away. But I've
I'm
learned,
sorry, you can't
somebody wants
see
to
me
be a blessing
laughing.
to me, I don't want to block your blessing. Like, let me not, literally, like, let me not block your blessing because you want to be a blessing to me. Because maybe the Lord told you to do that. And now, because I'm not accepting, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, it's just
and
doesn't
that because
become full
people want to
circle of
be
what it's
a
supposed to be.
blessing.
Right.
So I just chuckle. First of all, Tricia had said that she tried with the drill. Um, And then she also said, I wanted to say I needed my
Oh,
loved one back. Oh, girl,
yeah.
honey.
And you can
That,
emphasize that for me. Oh, the other one that our family really went through is how are you? And I don't know how some people are okay with that. And this is what I mean. Like when we talk about like people grieve differently, for some people it's okay to ask, well, how are you? My family was like, why do you keep asking me, how are you? You know how I am, right?
right? Like, and even now, even to like this day, when I call dad sometimes, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, dad, how are you? And he's like, I want, you know, terrible. And I'm like, I get it. Next question. Like, so now I just jump straight conversation
Yeah.
with dad. I don't even
And
ask.
some days you can ask him and he'll respond and he'll be like, I'm great, I'm wonderful. And when I was having a conversation with him, I think it was last night, and he was just kind of like, some days it feels like it's getting better, and some days it feels like it's worse. And it's okay, y'all. I think that's the same with me. There's just certain things where I just want to break down and cry. And there's some days
Oh,
where I
yeah.
can get through and just I'm thinking nothing but positive thoughts, and I'm being strong and all of that. And then there's other days where I'm just like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. Yeah. So okay,
So,
where are we?
so we were just, I mean, we were talking about,
Oh, I
asking
don't
for
want to be a
grief.
burden. Everyone
Yeah,
has their own problems. I don't
right.
even
All
know.
of that.
Yeah.
So,
We
for,
kind of
I
covered
think,
those.
yeah, we did. We covered all of those. So we were basically, you know, reframe how you ask for help is, you got to train your brain differently. How we were kind of changing our brain and training it to do other things. So when you're thinking about help and you're like, oh, but I don't want to be a burden. But
Mhm.
when you tell your friends, like, hey, girl, what do you need? I'm here for you. Do you think they're being a burden? Like, you got to think about that. If you're reaching out to people and saying, hey, I'm here for you, you got to do it the opposite way. If people are calling you and genuinely saying, how can I help you?
Right.
Then don't
And
think
it's up to
it's a burden.
us to accept that. Yeah.
Oh, for
Or
sure. Because, like,
to just to open up our mouths, because the closed mouth don't get fed, right?
sure don't. That's what I
So
tell my kids. I'm like, oh, you was hungry? There was dinner in the fridge, but you didn't ask.
yeah,
You
so
know,
we have to check ourselves when we've done a lot of conversation about how we felt when other people didn't do da 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 da. But then we also have to look at ourselves and be like, but did we ask? Did we make it plain? Because some people literally do not know how to be there for you. Some people literally do not know what to do for you, but they want to. And
yeah, definitely want
and
to.
in
And
that
just,
we just have. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
um, as we're thinking about that, practical ways that we can ask for support, like you're saying, some people don't know. So then you could call your friend, hey, Camille, I'm struggling today. Can we talk?
Yeah.
And it may not even be about the necessary topic at hand, but something that maybe it'll help get you off your mind. You need to talk to that person. They can make
Right.
you
Something
laugh. You
to
just need
laugh.
to, yeah. And people don't like you if you can do that. Or, you know, my one friend, she would be like, girl, we can go out and go get dinner, and then, or I could just come and sit with you. So think about that when you're like, hey, invite somebody over, or, just say, hey, can I just come sit with you, just hang for a little while? Like, we don't have to say anything. Can we just be in the same space? Like, you want somebody to be there. And I know that seems kind of awkward sometimes. You like just sitting in a room, but hey, you want company. You want a body. And that's like Dad was just saying, like, it is so quiet at
Yeah.
his house. And I said, I texted a good friend of ours and I said, you know what? The silence in my home is deafening. Uh, and
Mm-hmm.
he agreed. He was like, I agree. My dad won't even turn on a light. Um, so I just say, like, it may seem awkward, but you may need that. And I think that's
Yeah.
okay. I definitely feel like that's okay.
Yeah.
Or even praying, like, you've got that one good friend who could be like, girl, you are such a prayer warrior. Can you get down on some prayer with me?
Yeah. And even if they're not a prayer warrior, sometimes it's the two struggling prayer people who, you just need someone to pray.
I
Because
know.
you don't have to speak so eloquently for God to hear you.
Oh,
But
no, I agree.
There's
only a couple people that I call to pray with, okay?
I mean, you do want to be mindful of who prays with you. I'm just saying they might have all they can still get the prayer through even if they aren't the warrior.
My mama used to say, girl, your prayer ain't going nowhere but to the roof and coming back down. So, I'm going to need somebody to get it through the ceiling. No, I'm going to be still protected.
We need to reach the heavens.
That's right.
Your prayer gets there. So, who is one person you can reach out to this week? Whether you are the one who is needing the support or you know someone who needs the support. Because sometimes, it's in helping other people that you actually get your breakthrough, right? It's not just in having people be there for you. And then sometimes that opens up the door for them to be there for you. When you show yourself friendly, then other people will want to be friendly to you. And sometimes that takes a relationship from one level to the next because you open up another door of trust and you show people another layer of who you are. So just think about one person that you can reach out to. Again, whether you're reaching out to them to say, hey, I am struggling, I need some help, I need you to be there, whatever the case is. Or if you're saying, you know what, I haven't heard from you, or I know you're going through this and I haven't been there maybe like I should have been, or maybe like you felt like I could have been. How can I be there for you? So identify one person. Faith, community, therapy, and really finding that right balance, I think, is important as well. And because when we think about faith and healing, God never intended for us to carry our burdens alone. Even Jesus had his disciples to lean on. And think about this. He had his disciple crew, but then he had like his inner circle. And even we have our inner circle, right? Our inner eyeball. I don't know if she's still on there. I think so. But, we have all of our cousins, and then we got like a smaller circle of cousins that we might share stuff with that we don't share with everybody else, right? And so it's important for us to know that we aren't going through this alone. And there's a scripture, Galatians 6:2, it says, bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. And the law of Christ is love. So are we out here showing love to one another? Or are we out here feeling like life is so busy and it's too busy to show love to somebody else, to pick up the phone, to call them, whatever? So, Errol, you want to talk about the next point, the therapy and healing? Because you went to therapy. I've gone to therapy when John Sue went through his health situation. I just needed all types of outlets. And yeah, I needed that. And so faith and therapy aren't opposites, guys. And I made sure that when I went and found a therapist, I wanted them to be a Christian therapist so that when they talk to me, they talk to me from the Word of God, or when they listen to me, or if I was asking for advice or they were kind of coaching me on something, that they were coming to me from a biblical perspective. So yes, even in therapy, you can find therapists who align with your beliefs or align with your faith. So that way, you know that they're going to get you in the right mind frame or put you in alignment with where you want to go. Therefore, are you still there? Because you've been like a little church mouse.
No wonder, because I was on mute this whole time I've been talking.
I'm like, man, I'm just carrying this thing on. So
this is why I was like, why is she still talking? Because I've tried to interrupt you like 4 or 5 times. And I hate that we can't see each other because I'm like, I'm talking. Why won't she listen?
Yeah, I wasn't listening. But
first I'm going to read these comments real quick. It says, I call my mama for prayer. She has a direct line to Jesus. And then Aaron said that this is true.
Oh,
So,
wait, no. So you can't see me, but they can see you. So you.
so I'm just steady talking, and I'm like, well, I'll sit here. Like,
You
I
probably
think at
look
one
so
point I
crazy.
started sulking. Like, is she gonna let me talk at all? Like, she's in a really toxic
Facial
mood
expressions
today.
because
Like,
I already know.
and my facial expression.
I knew it. I knew it. I can't
I was
wait to go
like,
back and watch that.
I'm like,
I
why won't she stop talking? What is happening? Okay, but anyway, let me get back on topic. So, like you said, you went to therapy. I went to therapy too. I was not every time I've gone. So I went one time after I got it. It was a couple years after the divorce, but just transitioning with the kids. And the therapist was like, I know you're here for your kids, but you seem to be the one who needs some therapy. And I'm like, what, bro? Like, I kind of felt attacked, but all through and through, it ended up being, Tricia had said, I thought maybe she was talking to someone in her house. Well, praise God, I didn't look that
so you
crazy.
didn't hear a thing. That's all. I was like, where'd she go? Why am I? I'm calling her around here, and she's not saying anything.
That was terrible. Okay. So I'll say it was beneficial for me then, just during a life transition.
Yeah.
So life change, it was beneficial. Now, when I went for grief counseling, I mean, it was nice. I felt like I was being heard, but at the same time, and I know when you go generally I wasn't looking for her to fix anything, or I was looking for some conversation at least. So I was in there for like an hour talking to myself. I was like, well,
Like I
wait,
could have done this at yeah.
home. So I was like, well, thank God it was a free,
Yeah.
hospice offer is free, but I didn't go back. So I'm
I
just out here struggling.
I think finding the right type of therapist too, because you can get like a therapist who's also a coach versus more of like a listening therapist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you just feel like you're about to go sit on somebody's couch or in their chair and just talk and talk and they
Yeah.
listen, but actually more of a life coach therapy. So, I mean, finding the right one, and we mentioned this in a previous episode, but making sure that we find the right match, because when we find the right match, God can work through counselors just as much as he can work through prayer, right? Because he's given those people what it is that we need.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes to consider therapy, if y'all are wondering, like, well, should I go to a therapist? If grief is affecting your daily functioning, you might want to consider going to a therapist. And remember, y'all, if you don't have the right therapist at first, change them. You're not stuck. There's no loyalty to
So
them.
got
And
some
then,
comments.
go ahead.
Carla says, wait, I thought I was the only one called out for needing therapy. And I said, no, not alone. And she also said, yes, finding the right person is very important. And we have another comment that says, I thought, she must have deleted her comment, but basically the comment was just saying that they also found that they weren't moving along in life and they started therapy and it was very beneficial. I think sometimes, and I am not knocking, but I think that sometimes when people are in church, they feel like they can't do certain things. And I know we've talked on it and touched on it. Like God sends us, like he created like doctors and he created these avenues for us to use. Like it's not like we're going against his will, I feel like, and I think people get caught up in that sometimes. And I want people to know like, it's okay. Because like you say, as long as you're finding the right one for you, you were like, I'm doing faith-based. For me, I was clearly going for one reason and got hemmed up because I wasn't going for myself. I was going for my kids, I thought. And again, everything happens for a reason. And you choose people for you. You choose people. So the same thing would go, who's in your inner circle or who's in your support system. You choose those people because they are who are right for you. They are supposed to be there, etc.
Absolutely.
So yeah, no.
Yeah,
I definitely feel like
another reason. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I started to say some ways or reasons to consider therapy if people on here were wondering, like, should I go to therapy? If you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed and just can't, like you feel like you're hitting this roadblock, then that might be an opportunity for you to say, okay, yeah, I need to go. And it's not always if you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed. Sometimes you might be in a good place and you just want to make sure you're doing a check-in, and getting the right therapist to go along with that.
Got some more.
So then community. Go ahead.
I'm back to my comments. Yes, spot on. His desire is we be whole. He created those specialties for a reason. Somebody else said, I was surprised to hear of a lot of people going to therapy and had all of those feels. So come back, the comment to that I was surprised to hear a lot of people going to therapy. It says, because I feel like a lot of people are ashamed and embarrassed. I think that would be a correct statement, because I feel like some people are like, you're going into therapy because you got real bad problems, or, I think that was a stigmatism, or I said a stigmatism like it was an eye problem. A stigma.
Yeah. I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier, too, is that a lot of times, and particularly in the church, I've been using that word a lot tonight. That's been my word, in particularly. Nonetheless. In the church, we're told only depend on God, trust and pray, and that's the way to go, and that's the only way. Without, again, recognizing, and it's kind of been the thing that all of us have been saying, is that God works through people. God had created these spaces, this industry, for us to be able to utilize. And this is another way that people are licensed and professionals in dealing with the burdens, because not everybody knows how to deal with your burdens. As I mentioned earlier, if I had to depend on certain people, even in our family, who is dealing with the same life transitions that we've been dealing with, I would have sunk. I would be like going down if I had to depend on them, right? Girl. So to know that we can have people who can point us in the right direction, or can be that listening ear, or could be that coach that we need.
And don't get us wrong, prayer and the Bible are.
That's the goal too. It's the foundation.
That should be where you start. And then if this, if you need a little bit more oomph and you need to talk to someone who you don't feel like, because I see a comment, a lot of judgment. I also get that. So it's like, I want to go talk to, so-and-so, but I don't want them to judge me. Or you want to go here and you don't want to feel. So like we say, the ultimate goal is to be whole in everything, in every part of your life, like whether, faith, all of those things, they're so important. So I don't want anybody to walk away and be like, well, those girls said that, that's not, so don't get it twisted. We are still very strong on faith. We are still strong on praying. We are still strong on reading his word, but we are also strong on using,
resources that we have available to us.
Like, they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say. And so it says, no, thank you, external to family. Love them, prayer works, but sometimes you cannot pray it away. Feel it.
You got to work through that. You got to talk through that. You got to do mental exercises through it. There's so many different things. And even when we're praying, sometimes the answers are in the discernment that we get of what direction we need to go
Yep.
in. That I think we have to realize that prayer isn't always this miracle that happens right within the moment. Prayer
Faith
also can
without
lead
works
you
is
exactly
dead.
to say that again.
I said faith without works is dead. Like
Yeah,
sometimes you got to get out there and do what, you know. I just
yeah.
feel
You
like,
got to put that work in. So community and healing. Healing happens in relationships. So find people who can hold space for you. And again, this might be something for all of us where we really need to go through and evaluate our relationships. Are there people who really are holding space for you? Are you really holding space for other people? And maybe this is why some of our healing is delayed because we don't have the relationships that are bringing about the healing. So let's also do that. Let's reflect on our relationships. Where do we need to grow? How can we be better at serving others in relationships? As well as because we were very like animated when we were talking about the people who weren't the healthy and they were the toxic people in the healing and grieving process. Um, but we also need to look at ourselves and say, okay, what is my role in this relationship, and how have I helped to create the relationship that I have here? And then
yeah,
we need to say we need to intentionally create relationships where when I'm going through something good or bad, I have a community that holds space for me. And don't be afraid. And I guess I've already said that. So in making sure people can hold space for you, don't be afraid to hold the space for other people. So have you ever been a part of a support group or faith community that helped you through grief? I know for us, in particularly Refreshing Springs, our church in Ohio, I say that because I'm in Virginia now. They show up. They show up. We have a ministry called Hurts to Halos, and when people have major surgeries or sicknesses or deaths or whatever, they're sending cards. They create meal trains, all types of things. They come over to the house and visit you if that's what you need. And so I'm very grateful for our faith community there and how they always will provide and are resourceful, and I'm grateful for that. I think another thing that really sticks out to me is I walked in church. After mom passed, I came back home to Virginia, and so I hadn't been at the church in a couple months. And when I walked in, I was talking to Sister Crystal, and she hugged me. Somehow something happened, I don't even know, but I just busted out crying, and she was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I just miss my mom." Janae, I think you might have been sitting in front of us this Sunday. I don't know if you heard that or not. And she just held me, and I just sobbed in her arms. And subconsciously, I didn't know that I needed that, but obviously I felt like I was in a safe space within the church, and then within talking to her, that I was able to have that release. And so I'm grateful that I have built those relationships where I didn't even know that I needed to release, that my mind said and my body said, you can relax. This is a safe place. She can hold that space for you. Are you muted again?
no, I was just listening to you.
Oh, okay. Period.
Oh, um,
Anything you want to add? Have you ever been a part of a support group, or faith community?
definitely, I agree with, Refreshing Springs. They definitely do show up. 100%. Did I have I don't feel like I had that person at the church though. For me personally, it would have been Laura Green, and unfortunately, she passed before mom passed. So I'm looking like, still lonely. Because I was just saying to Dad, like, it's still very strange for me to be at church. Um, it's a struggle every Sunday. Great. I love our church. I love the people. But the two people who I'm like, boom, neither one of them are there.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it definitely is a different feel and missing. I think even for me, I would add to that list Sister Regina, because that was someone who I would go, since I was like in high school, I would go and hang out with Sister Regina. Like we would make egg rolls, we would talk, and she was just real. She was one of the real ones, and to not have her there definitely in my life makes a difference. And then being able to look up and see her banners there every time that I walk in the church and different things, it's like it's a different feel. Definitely a different feel. So, but I'm grateful for the space that the ones who show up and do, and just the culture that we've created there. And I think, a lot of that still goes back to the relationships that we built, or checking how we're building our relationships with people. Because and I'm not going to go too far into this because we need to wrap this up. We've been going on for a minute. But in church, when we're looking at I lost my co-host. Hopefully she will try and come back on. So I will talk to him like, why did I think down? But what was I even saying now? Losing my sister made me lose my train of thought. I can't remember. Grateful for having them, building relationships, being intentional about building the relationships that we have. I think I've already said all that. And let's see, I can't see comments now. Anybody remember what I was saying before I lost my sister? No? Okay, let me see. She's trying to come back on. Let me see if I can add her. Couldn't add guests. I got booted. I see. And it is not letting me add you back. So I guess we're just going to wrap it up here. I'm going to try and request you so we can end it together. I'm sorry, guys. Eric, I'll try one more time. I feel like I was really on to something. Like I was going to drop a pearl, a little gemmy gem. But I guess I'm not now. Yeah. But anyway, if you are I know what I was going to say. Here we go. In the Bible, where it talks about how we need to essentially fellowship with one another. Like when we're in church, it shouldn't just be when I see you at church. Are you intentionally building these relationships? Because in the Word, you'll see they fellowshiped, they ate, they sang, they prayed, and they did it on a daily basis. This is something that we should be doing in our discipleship and in our life as we're growing as disciples in Christ. Because if we don't, then we will allow the world and what other influences are out there are going to influence us to have different thoughts and to think in different ways. And so it's important from a biblical Christian perspective that we do intentionally build our relationships with those who are in faith with us. It should not be weird to pray with one another. It should not be weird to discuss the word with one another. It shouldn't be boring to do it. We should have excitement about it. And I think in doing that, you find more people that you can lean on to have there for you, to celebrate your good times, to be there for you in your down times. And then they understand how to be there for you all the more, because that's what they did back in the day. When you read the Bible, it talks about when one was in need, they all pitched in and helped the other person. And we've lost that in the society of busy, in the society of, I got to go for me. I got to go for self. I built this on my own. We've lost a sense of community. And we need to bring community back So that way we do know how to bear each other's burdens in a healthy way. So that is my TED Talk. And my sister never made it back. Okay, Erica, are you there, or did you get booted off Facebook? Like they deleted your profile? I'm not sure what happened here. Okay, but anyway, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Just remember that healing is not meant to be a solo journey. So lean into your faith, all right? Lean into your people and allow yourself to be supported. Allow yourself to be loved on. Are you? Because every time I try to add you, let me see if I can bring you back on so you can say goodbye to the people. Can you try and add yourself one more time? Because when I say on viewers, it's not allowing, you're not popping up. AREIKO. You're not there. Probably delete. Yeah, it probably did. Okay, so next Sunday, we'll talk about embracing new routines and finding a new normal in transition after a loss. All of that, we're going to be talking about what does that look like. And if this episode really spoke to you, be sure to share it with someone who needs encouragement. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify and invite someone to join our community. You asked, it is not giving me, you're not even popping up. Okay, I'm sorry I lost my co-host. I'm sorry, Erica, but I will see y'all. We will see y'all next week. Bye.